7 pillows, 3 speakers, 1 moderator. Dr. Robert OEXMAN, President and Founder at Somli, PARNEET Pal, Chief Science Officer at Wisdom Labs, Mike CHERNETSOV, CPO at Loóna, moderated by Stuart Rogers, Editor-in-Chief at Dataconomy.
Well, hello, Emerge. We are well into the amazing content that we've got for you here on day 2. And next up is a subject that is so close to my heart that they asked me to moderate it. We're talking about the 7 pillars of well-being, which is one of my favorite word plays of the year, how to sleep well and avoid burnout. And, you know, that's something that's very important to all startup workers and all founders. We're using all sorts of things. We're using biohacking, mindfulness apps, fitness trackers, all sorts of things to understand our sleep and see if we can improve it. But at the same time, we're all working very, very hard in this industry. And there's also the coronasomnia phenomenon, which we'll definitely touch on today, among other things. Joining me is Dr. Robert OEXMAN, President and Founder of Somli, PARNEET Pal, Chief Science Officer at Wisdom Labs, and Mike CHERNETSOV, CPO at Loóna. It's great to have you all here. I really, really appreciate it. What I'd love to do is, why don't you tell everybody why you're specifically interested in sleep? What is your angle? What's your approach? Maybe we could start with ladies first. PARNEET.
Thank you so much, Stuart, and hello, everyone. Really good to be on this panel. So my background, I trained as a physician. So for me, health and well-being are the foundation of every single thing that we do. And as Chief Science Officer at Wisdom Labs, we're really focused on solving for stress, burnout, and loneliness in the workplace, using the science of mindfulness, resilience, and compassion. So for me, my approach to sleep, or why I feel that it's really crucial, is that it's kind of, you can think of it like the core or the foundation of your well-being. And we can get into the details later, but I think my approach is that for all of us, we're founders, we're investors. For us, our moment-to-moment decision-making is really key. But also our long-standing health, what happens over time, is really essential so that we can be around in an energetic way for the life and wellness of our companies. And I want us all to think about sleep not just as a silo, but to think of it as all of our systems in our body are optimized to work together. So our sleep-wake cycle is connected to our hunger and our food systems, which is connected to our hormonal systems, which is connected to all the other metabolic processes in the body. So the frame that I use is, how can we understand the beauty of how our biology works, and then use that to optimize how we show up every day in our lives. So that's my approach to sleep.
Excellent, thank you so much, Robert. Tell me your interest in this topic.
Yeah, so I started Somli about 3 years ago. My lifetime has been involved on the research side of sleep, and I spent a great deal of time actually lecturing, talking to people about the downside of not sleeping very well. And about 10 years ago, I was introduced to Dr. Jack Gettinger, who spent his lifetime doing research in CBTI, and that's how I got involved. And for me, it was about, how do we take a patient who has probably been on the internet, probably been to a doctor, have tried multiple things to try to help them sleep. And I oftentimes see patients, what I call a smorgasbord approach to sleep. One night they'll try this and this, and if that doesn't work, the next night they'll try this and this. If that works, then they try it the next night, and then suddenly it doesn't work. So they have 28, 30 things in this smorgasbord that they try on one given night or another. And with Somli, we want to make sure we take a very personalized, very specific approach, looking at that individual. And through a telemedicine format, we're trying to make sure that we do what I call a very minimalist approach. We don't want you doing 28 things to go to bed every night. That's not a good solution. It's not a long-term solution. So it's very much a very specific approach. So I got involved to do just that, make sure that rather than telling someone they have a problem, I want to be on the solution side of that now. How do we fix it? And how do we fix it long-term? And that, again, keeping a very, very simple approach to do that.
Excellent. Thank you, Rob. Mike, tell me what your angle is, please.
The team behind Loóna is the the founding team that previously launched Masquerade. And here at Loóna, we strongly believe in the power of art and creativity. And at one particular moment, we just wondered whether we can harness that power of art, music, and storytelling in order to make an impact and to help people who may struggle before going to bed. And actually, that's how it all started. Plus, that's a well-known fact that human imagination is an extremely powerful tool for handling stress and coping with anxiety. That are one of the key reasons that may prevent people from having a good night's rest. And we kind of tried to come up with a solution that will use the power of imagination and art in order to kind of solve that particular problem.
Excellent, thank you. So, for my part, I've been interested in biohacking. I've definitely been interested in sleep lately. I mean, let's talk about the elephant in the room for a moment. Coronasomnia. My sleep patterns used to be absolutely rock solid, and it wouldn't even matter what time zone I was in. I'd figured out methodologies and techniques to ensure that my body woke up. I didn't even need an alarm clock. It woke up at 7:30 every day. Didn't matter if I traveled from Moscow to San Francisco that day. I would wake up at 7:30 every day. And then the pandemic hit. And there's a lot of research around this. University of Southampton showed that the number of people experiencing insomnia during the pandemic rose from 1 in 4 to 1 in 6. In Italy and Greece, a May study showed that nearly 40% of respondents were shown to have insomnia. And in fact, insomnia was Googled more in 2020 than it ever has been in the history of Google. So, this is definitely something that has affected people wildly. Parneet, what do you think about that? Is that surprising to you? And what are some of the things that we might be able to do to help people get better sleep during the pandemic?
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. So, the statistics that you just mentioned around insomnia kind of mirror the statistics that we've also seen over the pandemic around rising levels of anxiety and depression and loneliness. And I think all of these are connected to one another. So, of course, on the one hand, it's a very natural reaction of the body in the face of uncertainty, in the face of the stress. You don't know if, we're working from home. We don't know what's going to happen to our jobs. We don't know what's going to happen to our health. And so there's a natural concern that arises. But what's happened is that a lot of us don't have the tools. We don't know what to do with those kind of anxious thoughts that are arising. It's a completely new situation for us. And so that obviously plays into the fact that, then it kind of triggers that kind of insomnia and sleeplessness. So I think one thing to start thinking about to manage this is, I'm a huge proponent of optimizing your whole lifestyle, right? How you eat, how you move, how you sleep, how you manage your stress, they're all linked to one another. So start thinking about which aspect of your lifestyle is easiest for you to start with. But as far as it relates to your the anxiety that you might be feeling, I think this is where one option, and I know Robert will talk about the amazing benefits of cognitive behavioral therapy in this space. But one other approach that you can take is through mindfulness and meditation practices as well to address that kind of anxiety and that kind of ruminative thinking. So mindfulness practices have been shown to be very helpful when it comes to help you moving out of that spiral of anxious thinking and to really come back to the present moment and to take the decisions that are available to you right now, which can really help to stabilize the mind and then contribute to a greater likelihood that you'll be able to sleep better.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Robert, tell me more about CBT and how that applies to insomnia during the pandemic.
Yeah, and I think that, I agree, everything she just said, I think is really kind of at the top of the list. But CBTI is based on a model called Spielman's model that talks about that we all have these underlying events that at any point could cause insomnia, but they don't. So, for example, irregular bedtimes, alcohol consumption, caffeine consumption, hormone levels. And they're all kind of subclinical. And they don't actually manifest or kind of rise to the top of insomnia. And then there's an event that happens, and it could be a positive event or a negative event. In this case, it was a very negative event around COVID. And now suddenly the world, it wasn't just a small group of people, the world, experienced this event called the coronavirus. And now suddenly all of these things now became an important role. The anxiety that we started feeling around that, starting to have anxiety around our children. Our children are no longer in school. How are they going to learn? I have to manage these children at the house. My partner's at home now. I'm at home now. We're trying to work from home. We have irregular schedules because of all that. What used to be a regular schedule because we had to get our children up for school now becomes an irregular schedule. We saw alcohol consumption just skyrocket during this period of time. We see caffeine consumption. So we have all of these things that kind of now rise to the top, and it just continues on for such a long period of time. Anxiety gets worse, and we just now start flowing. So with a CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy approach, it's just that it's starting to get life back under control, and whether that's through mindfulness, meditation, whether that is through managing schedules, managing time in bed, because a lot of people, I have actually had patients who spend over 12 hours in bed now, 12 hours in bed, but they're only sleeping 6 to 7 of that, right? They're on their computers in bed, they're on their phones in bed, they're watching Netflix in bed, they're spending a lot of time doing other things in bed. So that's, from a CBTI approach, that's what we're looking at. We're trying to change that thought perception of what they need, changing behaviors, changing times and bed schedules, trying to manage that, and that's how we move forward. And again, it's kind of hitting the reset button, but it's a pretty short period of time. The CBTI as an approach is only 4 to 6 weeks. It happens very, very quickly. It's not a long approach.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, just to highlight what you said, I'm not getting more sleep. I'm definitely getting lower quality of sleep. Take last night, for example. Went to bed with the full intention of getting a good night's sleep because, hosting the Emerge main stage and everything else is hard work.
On sleep.
And I woke up at 2 a.m., 3:30 a.m., and 5 a.m. before I finally got up and gave up at 8:30 a.m. And this is kind of regular for me at this point. And I've never had this, almost not in my entire life before. Mike, tell me what's your view on this? I'd love to hear it.
It's definitely that our lives have changed, and there is that before COVID and after COVID moment, and it's now everything's different. It wasn't surprising that our sleep pattern and our sleep routine have changed, but here at Loóna, we're also gathering data, trying to analyze the feedback from our customers, what affects their sleep. And we were surprised at how huge was the number of customers who reported coronavirus concerns, COVID fears as the main reason for them not being able to fall asleep and to enjoy a more restful slumber. And another interesting trend that we also here noticed is the rising popularity of escapism, being constantly under stress, ruminating over what's going to happen to my job, to my family. Now, you at the end of the day, you just want to escape. You want just to escape, at least for a while, from all that stress and anxiety that has piled over during the day. And it's interesting. I've come across an article about the popularity of Animal Crossing. It's one of the COVID was one of the reasons why that game was a massive success, because people just wanted to escape that particular reality and to a place where they can feel safe, protected, where there was nothing like this going on.
Yeah, Animal Crossing did become stupidly popular, along with a lot of other things as well. I remember the House Party app became incredibly popular, and people were just spending time talking to each other on video calls and that kind of stuff. Robert, how can people set themselves up for success? I once had a sleep therapist tell me that your bedroom should only be for sleep or sex and nothing else. And, you know, if you're going to read, even if it's a book and not your screen, you should be doing that downstairs and only going to bed when you're tired. But there must be lots of other things that you can do.
Yeah, tons, right? And again, it really depends on the individual. And again, when we talk about how do I set up my environment, what should not do, I always want to be very cautious because, again, some people can successfully do things and other people can't. So that's that kind of that smorgasbord we talked about. But I think the top of the list is patience and consistency. Is that be patient. Don't make changes to your sleeping behavior night to night to night to night or every other night or something like that. If you're going to set up and you research or you look at information you think is going to impact my sleep, be patient, be consistent, give it a couple weeks. Even if you have a bad night of sleep, 2 or 3 bad nights of sleep, anything that you do, whether it's CBTI work, mindfulness work, meditation, doesn't matter what you do, don't expect results immediately. You need to be patient and allow it to happen. And be consistent. Don't change night to night. So again, whether it's medication, whether it's over the counter, it doesn't matter what you're going to do. Make sure to be very patient and consistent with it. And you're right. In the very beginning, we do kind of manage some of that sleeping environment. Because then we don't want to associate reading with going to bed. And even if you're successful going to sleep with reading, but you wake up in the middle of the night, the problem is, what's your next thought? The only way I'm going to be able to go back to sleep is if I read in the middle of the night. So that's why we take reading downstairs in a dim lit environment before bed and not in bed. Cool bedroom temperature. Again, we know we need a decrease in core body temperature to fall asleep. Yeah, we want it cold, right? We want to make sure, again, that it's dark. All of those type of things. Light, temperature, noise. I love white noise. I think that's a fantastic thing, right? To kind of help us consolidate sleep at night. You travel overseas. I used to travel overseas once a month offshore. And it's amazing to me at 38,000 feet, you know, everyone puts their little eye shades on probably for the first time, the hum of the engine, 38,000 feet over the ocean, people sleep, right? And hopefully without medication and alcohol, but some probably do, right? So, but no, that's it. I mean, we do want to control, but boy, if I can give anyone any hints at all, any information, please be patient and consistent. When a bad night happens, it's a bad night. Start your day and start all over again. One bad night of sleep as you're trying to get treatment isn't necessarily a bad thing. Start your day, get going again.
Yeah, I guess it's like anything in life. You know, as long as you practice it often enough, then it starts to become natural. Like when I was flying country to country every week, you know, people would say to me, "How on earth do you sleep on a plane? I can't sleep on a plane." I'm like, "When was the last time you practiced sleeping sitting up with all your clothes on?" And they, of course, didn't. So it was alien to them, whereas I was doing it all the time. So
yeah, I think you're right. I always use the analogy of a golfer. You know, we have professional golfers that go out and hit a bad shot on occasion. They don't immediately change their golf swing. They just have a bad golf swing. That they can have a bad golf game. They don't change your swing. Same thing around sleep. Just because you have one bad night of sleep, don't change, right? Give it time. See if this is a pattern and not just a bad night of sleep.
I guess you agree with that, Mike, because, you know, the very basis of what you're doing is, I guess, based on a lot of repetition.
Yeah. Speaking about going a little bit back when you mentioned that like bedrooms should be like only for sleep. The combination of technology and sleep still may sound a little bit counterintuitive because the presence of a mobile device in your bedroom may seem to someone a little bit intrusive and disruptive. But we see that the common perception of mobile devices helping people to prepare for sleep is changing, and people get more and more adopted to different digital means of helping you fall asleep. As regards Loóna, the core experience is in using the interactivity and that involves fine motoric skills. And it's the same thing as with doing the dishes, embroidery, maybe sweeping the floor, like repeating. It may seem mindless, but repeating the same simple actions over and over again, it helps to distract your mind from all the stresses around and focus on one particular thing without a huge cognitive pressure, and it helps you like to relax.
Excellent. So look, we've talked about a lot of different things so far, and we've talked a little bit about some of the technologies that are available that can help us to sleep better, which I think, at this point in history is very important for people. I've seen lots of things, but I have seen also the prevalence of things like eye masks that flash certain color lights in front of your eyes. Rob, you were talking about the white noise, and I've seen all sorts of binaural tracks that you can listen to. Just want to do a run around in terms of what have we seen from a technology standpoint that actually seems to be working and statistically is making things better. Parneet, tell me from your perspective.
So I think, and this is the recommendation. So this is, well, I like to call it the human aspect of technology. So, there are, you can have trackers such as the Oura Ring that give you really good feedback. And I think that's a great piece of technology because you're keeping track of your heart rate variability, your readiness for action the next day based on your sleep patterns the previous night. They have a high level of accuracy when it comes to actually tracking the quality of your sleep, second only to being in an actual sleep lab. And I think there are many other devices in that vein that are really helpful. Of course, Mike and what he's doing at Loóna is very interesting as well. I'm still going to come back to the kind of technology, biological human technology. And, the CBT and cognitive behavioral therapy, I think kind of falls into that category as well, using telemedicine, which is obviously an important technology. And here I just, again, want to bring back the conversation to the fact that let's start thinking about everything that you do in the day, the impact that you're having, and how you can time the food that you're eating, the exercise that you're doing, to match your circadian rhythm. And this is important beyond just, how well you're going to sleep or whether you're not going to be able to sleep or not, because these, like I said, these systems interact with each other. So I want us to start thinking about how can I bring this balance between growth and repair during my day? And when we use our waking times to do time restricted eating, for example, so eating between an 8 and 12 hour window, that is a technology as well. That's sort of like the biological technology that you're using in very intentionally, or the exercise that you can get during those waking hours as well. And of course, light exposure. I mean, light exposure is key to really optimizing the circadian rhythm and the circadian clocks in our body and our metabolic processes. So making sure that you get access to sunlight or some amount of artificial light if it's dark where you are in the morning, and making sure that you stay away from exposure to light in the nighttime. And I just want to also point out that all of these actions that you're doing, sometimes we can get sort of really develop this kind of tunnel vision around, okay, I have to really focus on my sleep and this is what I need to do. And I need to chase after that particular app. But I just want to empower people with a sense of agency to just pause and breathe and take a step back and say, wait a second, what am I really looking for here? What I'm looking for is that when I wake up tomorrow morning, I want to have the energy, the focus, the motivation to be in the kind of optimal mood that I can tap into my creative ideas and show up well for my business and show up well with my teammates or my family. And I also want to make sure that I am building the capacity of my body not to be prone to viruses, to make sure that I'm optimizing my microbiome in my gut bacteria that are really key. They interact with our moods, they interact with the way that we digest our food. And also I want to make sure that I'm not lining myself up for, heart disease or obesity or diabetes or cancer risk down the line. So I really want to bring the conversation back, to thinking more integratively about our well-being and sleep as sort of one of those key factors in that whole equation.
Thank you so much, Parneet. And I'm going to give the last word on this panel to Rob. So we're talking a lot there about, human technology, and I guess that includes all sorts of things like for the majority of people, the ones that don't have the the genetics to not be affected by caffeine, having caffeine too late in the day, that kind of thing. How does that play into your work and the way you think about this problem?
You mean technology in itself?
Yeah, the confluence between the human side of it and the technological side.
Yeah, so I think what's interesting for me is from a technology side is that 3 years ago when we started Somly, people thought I was crazy. Who's gonna do telemedicine, right? And I don't know whether I'm lucky, fortunate, blessed. I don't know which it is, but COVID hit, and now it's common. So from a technology standpoint, people are comfortable in telemedicine. So we're now, because from CBTI providers, behavioral sleep medicine is it's hard to find somebody to do it. And now we're seeing apps besides Somly. We're seeing a lot of people starting to do telemedicine. And I think it's great. We're now making this available to the world. So I think that's great. Another thing that she mentioned was, I think it's important. We oftentimes people get on the internet and they believe they should come home at night and shut down. They put and I don't mean to be negative about this, but put their blue blocker eyeglasses on, they shut the curtains, shut all their TVs off, and they wait for 6 hours later for sleep to happen. That's a problem, right? We can't do that. We are literally hardwired, created to be very active, physically and mentally. And the hardest thing for my clients to do is to be active in the evening. I don't want them shutting down. I don't want them preparing for bed 4 hours beforehand. We want them active. And I think that's a tough concept for people because, again, they think they need to shut down. I want them active. When they do their mindfulness techniques, I want that closer to bedtime, right? I love mindfulness any time of the day, but if it's for sleep, I want it closer to then, right? I don't want them shutting down too early. So I think from a technology standpoint, I think it's almost too much information, and then they want to shut down way too early. But telemedicine, I think, is going to be around for the long haul now. I think people are comfortable with it. It's easy to do. It's convenient. And we can get all kinds of access to healthcare now that we just never could have before. That's exciting to me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And thank you, all of you. I mean, this has been a fascinating discussion. We could probably talk about this for hours, but unfortunately, we have to let the next session come along. So first of all, huge thanks to Parneet, Rob, Mike. Second of all, huge thanks to our amazing audience. And we've got another session for you. It's coming up right now. So you'll leave us on this main stage. You'll go back to the agenda and click on the next topic, which is food tech on the edge of consumer behavior revolution, which is going to be also a fascinating discussion. Once again, thank you, Parneet, Rob, Mike. And let's go on to the next session, Emerge audience. And I hope you caught that rocket flying across the screen. You need to be adding up those rockets, audience, because that is your Shivas potential present. So make sure you're adding all of those up over the next 3 days. Thank you so much, all.
Thank you.
Thanks.